I feel genuinely motivated to make this video. Starfield looks incredible. Like, seriously. During this game's build-up phase, I was thinking, oh, Starfield looks cool. It's a Bethesda single-player game, so I'll probably get it. But then recently they dropped the 50-minute showcase, and I was genuinely blown away. I sat there jaw-dropped thinking, hold on, this game looks absolutely crazy. It could be the best game we get for a long time, and today, I kinda wanted to just give my thoughts going through analysing this game whilst talking about all the things I look forward to with it, so I hope you enjoy. So Starfield is set for a September release, September 6th to be exact, with 5 days early access with the pre-order, and I can't wait. It's been labelled things like Fallout in space or Skyrim in space, and whilst I don't think people are totally off, I do think there's like a lot more to it. So let's start with combat. I'm going to say a pretty hot take here. Combat in Bethesda games, there's never been a strong point. I never felt they took away from the games, at least at the time, but anything pre-Skyrim I do feel by modern standards hasn't aged very well, especially in comparison to other games at the time like Fable 2, which holds up to this day. And even Skyrim and Fallout 4, they aren't really the king of their fields. Again, I don't think they are held back, but it's just a little dated. So when watching the Starfield gameplay, it was definitely something I wanted to take note of, and my thoughts are basically, it's certainly the best we've seen, and I think it looks pretty up to date, but is it a massive industry revolution? No. But I do think when it comes to a Bethesda game, it's a good enhancement to the formula. Combat looks fun, gunplay looks nice, and there's definitely many cool things and ways to play. One thing that really excited me was someone jumping through a vent to stealth take down an enemy. This is one of those small enhancements to game design that I think is going to make it really replayable and allow all sorts of playstyles to perfectly be fleshed out. For example, in Skyrim as a stealth archer, you're kind of just sneaking around a map that's not necessarily built for it. Yes, you can play that way, but you can also play the exact same route as someone with a dual-wielding hammer and, magic and all this sort of stuff. So, you don't have to change your playstyle to progress through a level. However, with Starfield, it seems like you're going to be able to, sneak through vents if you're doing stealthy routes, or walk through a different corridor if you're going in guns blazing. It seems like they're going to give you multiple ways to enter every gunfight, and I personally think that's great. Again, that's not me throwing any shade at Skyrim or Fallout or anything, I love those games. Next up we have the planets, and this is by far the most exciting thing for me. When it comes to maps or environments, it's the number one make or break thing for me. I'm weird like that. The worlds and landscapes are truly breathtaking. I'm legit getting a console to experience them. I see these beautiful landscapes and amazing lighting on the planets, and I just want to explore them. I've seen some complaints that some are barren, and I guess in some places I definitely agree. But I mean, they're going to have resource-heavy planets. I mean, how would the game kind of progress without it? And on top of that, with there being like 1,000 planets, it makes total sense. Some are bound to be like teeming with life, and others are just going to be completely lifeless, and I think that that's kind of some of the fun of exploration. It'll make those life-filled planets that much more special. Picture it like Fallout. Not every building has something crazy inside, but when you find one that does, it'll blow your mind. I love how the city of New Atlantis looks. It's the biggest we've got in any Bethesda game ever yet. I could talk about the planets forever, but I don't have that long, and neither do you, but I do think it's looking crazily cool. Speaking of things that look really cool, character customization. Character customization looks cool. I personally don't feel Bethesda have ever been too bad in this department. Skyrim was really good, Fallout 4 was really good, but this looks really enhanced again. I do feel Bethesda have made an attempt in most areas to expand upon the foundation of the other games. I look forward to seeing how the trait system works. I saw that the Adoring Fan returns, which is such a cool callback to Oblivion. I'm excited to see what they can bring to this side of the game for sure, and I want to see how expansive the character customization is as an evolution of the previous games. Because again, I don't think they were ever too weak when it comes to character customization, but the fact that we're now on a completely different system with tons more memory, etc, etc, I want to see them really push the boundaries, which it does look like they're making an attempt to do. This is a small thing, but I saw they overhauled the lockpicking system with this new mechanic, and I don't know how to feel about it. It's different, it's no big deal of course, but I wonder if I'll prefer it or not. Speaking on mixed feelings, I saw that they've overhauled the speech system. Now, I might get in a little hot water for this, but I really enjoyed how Skyrim and Fallout's dialogue systems have been to date, and how they've basically handled the speech checks. The idea that leveling up your speech gets you a higher chance to pass the checks, I quite liked, and now I don't fully understand the newest system. It's some sort of point-based thing, but I think it's going to be something I'll have to play around with to get a full opinion on. But I'm not 100% sold on it at first sight, if that makes sense. So, since I've just made a massive hot take people are going to disagree with, let me follow it up with an even bigger one, in fact, probably the biggest one about this game. 30 FPS is fine. It is completely fine. Starfield is definitely ambitious, and there is no denying it, but I also think it's going for a cinematic experience. Now, don't worry, I'm not about to waffle on about some cinematic FPS. We don't have to play games at 24 FPS, I promise. But what I will say is that I think they're trading performance for visuals, interactivity, and depth. The worlds are going to be huge, and they'll need all the power they can muster to have everything they want in those worlds. So if the Xbox Series S can't execute the game at 60 FPS because the scope of the game is too big, I prefer them to limit it to 30 FPS opposed to cutting down the scope of the game in favour of performance. I've seen people saying it's a deal breaker, which I don't understand considering how all the previous Bethesda games have been 30 FPS and just how prevalent 30 FPS is in gaming still. Now, is it ideal? Of course not. I would much prefer 60, as would you, but realistically, it's not a game where you're going to need these twitchy, perfect inputs like Call of Duty or CSGO. It's an RPG. You really just want to be there for the story and be told a story, and I don't think that frame rate, this is just my take of course, is that big a deal that I'm not going to play the game. 30 FPS is totally fine, and some of my favourite games of all time have run at 30 FPS. But all that aside, let's kind of reel in the hot takes for a little bit. I love the idea that ship customization is not only going to change the shape of the ship's exterior, but also the interior. The longer the ship, the more space you'll have inside. The shorter, the less space. The wider, etc, etc. You get the point. The fact that you can basically build the interior of your ship that you're going to fly around the game and have some absolutely crazy designs, like they showed off a Transformer style ship, that to me is insanity, and I can't believe that they're actually going for this sort of style. I would never have imagined it when they announced Starfield, that we would not only be able to make our own ships, but it would actually change the interiors of the ships and allow us to have different abilities. Now, I don't play a lot of space games. In fact, this is probably the first space game I've been that interested in, but I really do think that this is really cool, and I don't know if this is like really prevalent in games that I have just not played, but for me, this is something I've never seen before, and that is just mind-blowing to me. I wholeheartedly cannot wait. But following that sort of like customization of locations you're in, I love that you can pretty much set up base anywhere you want on any planet you want. Now, one thing I love about Fallout 4 is the whole settlement shipment. It's just one of my favorite things in the game, but it goes really underutilized because a lot of the areas you can actually set up a settlement in, they're not really worth it. And I end up just setting up shop in some red rocket that's right by the start of the game. But also on top of that, it's kind of limited in its features. You know, you're limited to one location, you've got build requirements, etc, etc. You're kind of just sitting there going, I wish I could do more to make it my home. Well, wholeheartedly, there is nothing more homey than setting up base on any planet you choose. You like the landscape? Well, set up shop there, make yourself a little base. Move in the family, have a couple of kids, man. All jokes aside, I think it's going to be perfect. The fact that you could be on a black ice star planet, or a snowy planet, or a big green planet, it's just crazy that you're going to be able to set up shop wherever you want. Do you like the wildlife and the aliens of the game? Well, go to some crazy alien wildlife planet and make a house there. Or do you like to be in this cold, secluded area on the other side of the galaxy? Well, go do that too. Like, it's crazy that they're just giving you that many options. And as someone who wants to play this game for years to come, that to me is replay value to the max. Imagine how many different setups you could have by just going from different planets and choosing to live there and set up base on a completely different environment. I mean, not only will you have all the factions to go through, which we'll talk about a little later, but just the idea that you can set up shop pretty much anywhere you want. Yeah, I'm excited, I'll be honest. Now, the concept of searching around for resources, scanning and collecting is something that's definitely been done before, especially in games like No Man's Sky, but that doesn't mean it won't have its place in Starfield. I suppose when you think about it, it's kind of a natural progression for a Bethesda game. In Skyrim, you collect berries, eat them, and discover the effects, chop wood and grab mushrooms, etc., and you can basically build your house. Fallout did it differently. You were able to scrap cars, houses, trees, etc., and then you get building materials, and then you could also build your house and your settlements, etc., etc. Well, I don't think you're going to really be going around random planets that are barren and scrapping stuff because, well, they're barren. That wouldn't make much sense, would it? So the idea that you're going to be scanning and mining rocks, that to me is just really cool. And I know that it's something we've seen before in games, and I know that this is not an uncommon thing. But again, as someone who doesn't like space games particularly, and is really interested in this one, mainly because it's a Bethesda game, I really like the idea that you're basically going to be able to go through collecting all these cool resources and hopefully having some really unique settlements. Now, they haven't really shown off what all of these resources do, and it could just be as simple as Fallout system where you can go around collecting aluminium cans so you can upgrade your weapon in a workbench. Maybe you destroy some weird plasmic rock and you can make a cool orange gun or something. I don't know. But what I will say is I like the idea that I'm going to be going from planet to planet to find this rare and cool resource. It's kind of like Minecraft. So the story concept, we haven't really seen a ton of, and I don't really want to get too into it because I'm trying my best to actually avoid it whilst also watching all the showcase stuff. But it seems like we're going to be going after this sort of rare and weird resource, which now it's just kind of struck me. I've actually just had this like brain blast in the middle of recording this. Oh my god. What if it's that weird resource that what's his name? The old man at the Cabot House uses, and he can like, I don't know how to describe it. I'm just going to put an image on the screen. Probably not. Probably just some weird fan fiction, but hey, I can dream. I've also seen that weapon crafting returns and is as good as ever. I mean, it's nothing crazily revolutionary from what I've seen so far, but that being said, we haven't seen a ton of it, but I really hope that they let us go overboard and just craft some really cool things. But this is one of those things that's like, it ain't broke, so they don't have to fix it. Like, if they haven't expanded upon it a ton, I'm not heartbroken over that, because it's really good as it is, especially in games like Fallout 4. So, like, yeah, I'm totally cool with them not really expanding upon it like crazy. Obviously, I want them to, but I'm fine if they don't. One thing I've noticed is we haven't actually seen any alien races. We've seen aliens, but, you know, if you look at, like, Skyrim, for example, how you got, like, Argonians and Orcs and stuff, we haven't actually seen any sort of alien races in the game. We haven't gone and spoken to some weird three-headed Cyclops alien creature. We haven't gone and spoken to some weird ET-looking mother... Point being, we haven't really spoken to any of these crazy-looking guys yet, and that's kind of weird to me. I was really expecting, like, to see more alien races, so it's not that I'm disappointed. Maybe they're hiding it, or maybe they just didn't really think of having alien races in the game, which would be kind of weird. But if not, it's no deal breaker to me. But I'm just curious to see what angle they're going with it, and if they're keeping it a secret, why are they keeping it a secret? Now, a little secret, everyone, okay? I've seen, perhaps, maybe just a little bit, that Bethesda have announced a $300 edition of the game called the Constellation Edition. It looks mighty interesting, I must say. So I have to admit, I'm very much thinking about it, okay? At the time of recording this, which will probably be a few days before you see it. I'm very much thinking about it. Do I get it? Do I get that watch? Do I become a Constellation hero? Listen, it would be cool though, right? Like, yeah, it's sad, but it's cool sad. And that's my favorite type of sad. That's where I thrive. So it's like, do I get that cool watch? I don't know. I could get a Pip-Boy for that money. Thank you all so much for hanging out in this video. I know it's been a while since I've really uploaded, so I wanted to come back with a semi-long one. I mean, it's nothing crazy, but it should be, hopefully, by the end of this, around the, like, 12 to 15 minute mark, instead of, like, just some 6-minute video that I've pumped out for you all. It's good to see you all, good to be back, and, you know, I'm going to slowly start to ease back into content now. Obviously, it may not actually look that bad for you, but I kind of quit a while back. But yeah, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm happy to be back. You know, I'm going to start slowly drip feeding some more content out. I know I've been on quite the break, and the break isn't stopping. I'm not exactly going back to normality. But what I will say is that I am semi-thinking of returning. It's not been the longest break in the world, and I was definitely expecting to go for a bit longer. But it would appear that the second I left, everything cool in gaming decided to happen at once. So what's the fucking point?